Hello and welcome to the Giving Voice to Depression podcast, brought to you by Recovery.com, the best place to find mental health and addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere.
Each week, we profile a guest who shares openly about their mental health journey. They share because they understand that when people don't talk about their depression or other mental health conditions, those of us who do struggle with them can feel like we're the only ones, that there's something wrong with us and that no one understands. We understand.
I'm Terry McGuire, the creator and co-host of this podcast. You have my promise that we'll keep it real here. Depression is real, and we're not going to sugarcoat our discussions about it.
Hope is also real, and you'll get a dose of that here too. I'm Carly McCullough, a licensed social worker and educator, and Terry's daughter. We've both experienced depression and also support loved ones struggling with it. We're here to normalize talking about depression and mental health in our communities, as well as our families.
And to share real-world tested strategies that have worked for other people who have walked similar paths. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Mom. Today, we get to hear from Karen, who is two of our favorite things. She is a Giving Voice to Depression podcast listener, and she has never shared her story publicly before.
It is really an honor when people do that. She'd been listening, and then she wrote us, and she said that after a lifetime of depression in many different forms, she is finding life worth living again, and that she had, quoting now, an overwhelming urge to share my story. Sad, happy, down times, just overall anything that could possibly help at least one person.
And we're certain that it will. So here is Karen giving her voice to depression.
It was so nice when I read that you said, I'm at a point in my life where I can actually talk and it feels so good. And I'm wondering what this point is and how you got here.
And I've been, in and out of my depressive states a lot for most of my life. And I think what made me, get a hold of you is that this year has just been, it probably was the bottom for me this past year. And now I'm finally getting to a point where I have everything that I need. I have an amazing therapist. I have the best support system that I've ever had my whole life. And it's kind of a thing for me where I want to kind of celebrate where I've come this past year.
How did you manage to get all those things in place? Because so many of us don't have that.
Oh, it's been so much hard work. I don't think that people realize how much work goes into it. There's just so many facets of it that, have to be all complete and perfect. For me, they need to be perfect.
Perfect for Karen followed the realization that she deserves support and other wonderful things in her life.
The past 5 years have just been, it's been a roller coaster. And of course, I have felt the true deepness of the depression. And I never knew that my mind and my body could go through so much. And I just remember through my darkest days just saying, I'm so tired, and somebody help me, and I think what really was hard for me, I've spent the past 3 years looking for the perfect therapist. And I've went through a lot of rough ones, but, I finally have found the one for me, and to have that in my life is so liberating. I finally am not fighting anymore for the help that I need.
I'm curious what qualities make a therapist perfect for you.
Every time I'm in there, it's I have her attention full-heartedly, and she just looks at me and that she cares.
Caring, listening without judgment, and being there as both a professional or family or friend. It makes a world of difference when depression's mental, emotional, and physical symptoms flare.
And I think what happens is that I'm so scared of getting to where I was before.
It's scary. Yeah.
So I get those feelings and, just to get up from the couch to go to the refrigerator, it hurts. Every part of your body hurts. And, you don't even have the energy to walk outside. And I don't want to be that person anymore that wants to think of suicide, and how was I going to get through, I was back to those actions again where I was, like taking off of work and just putting myself deep into my own hole and just isolating. I don't want to talk to anybody. It's just such a scary place to be. I think when I go through those times, I really have to just make it through the next minute. I have to put the clock back a little bit and say, okay, I'm not living for today, I'm living for the minute. That's what's good, I think, about it now is that, I had the same thing going on with this depression that I've had in the past few years. But the difference was I don't have the suicide anymore. And I think, you know what? That's a stride in itself.
That is a huge stride, Karen. I would love to unpack some of the symptoms and just go through 3 of the ones you just mentioned because you used the word isolated. And I think we're all so in our own heads, in our own bodies, in our own pits, in our own spaces that we're not even aware that we are experiencing common symptoms of a common illness. And if I can, that when you said you're tired, oh, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted. Describe that tired, because I believe it is wholly different than I didn't sleep well last night tired.
I think for me, it is, I could be lying there in bed and I'm thinking about all the things that I want to do that day or all the things that I should do. Oh, yeah, I should get up and I should journal. I should get up and do these things that are, good for myself. And that's the thing what I noticed too is that my toolkit changes all the time. Each episode that happens, sometimes journaling is a really good tool for me, whereas sometimes that's just not going to cut it for me. Where, when I'm going through it and I'm laying down and thinking all these things I can do, and then as soon as I sit up, my shoulders go down, my bones and my body just like, they just totally go downhill. Everything just goes like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting up now. My stomach hurts. My bones ache. And I stand up and it's almost painful to stand up and to think about walking 20 feet to get a glass of water. And then all of a sudden it's like all those thoughts that I had about, getting up and doing journaling or whatever, they're out the window right away. Sometimes my body decides it wants to lay back down. Sometimes it says, okay, let's just get up and grab something, on the other side of the room and then go back and lay down. And it's just like, if somebody has, a medical problem, a back issue or something, and it's hard to get up, that's exactly how it feels with my depression. It becomes very physical for me.
So physical that even a shower can seem impossible, right? The damn shower. We hear it from so many people. Karen says, even when she knows she needs one, there are days that she just thinks, yeah, not today. I can't do it today.
Am I far away from where I want to be? Absolutely. But you know what? I remember earlier this year, I was in a mental health program and it was so good. I met so many wonderful people and there was somebody I met there and, I remember just saying to him, I was like, when am I ever going to get back to the old me? And he looks at me, he says, Karen, you're never going to be the same person that you once were, but you are going to be an improved version of that person that you used to be. You're going to be a better person. I've kept those words with me for a very long time. I'm never, none of us are ever going to be the same person that we were before this depression hit. And only you can make it that improved version. And it's so much work.
It's so much work. I'm trying to think of a quotation that what you're saying is bringing up. So if you see me on my phone, I promise you I'm not like texting someone.
No, that's okay.
Okay, hold on. We'll see if we find it here. Yes. And once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about.
Yes. It's a true statement for, my past few years. Yeah, I'd like to hold on to that.
I should say who it was anyway, so I'm not just plagiarizing here. It's Haruki, Haruki Murakami, Murakami.
Okay.
So one of the other symptoms you mentioned is worry. And there's that, am I going to be in this forever? Because I believe that when we're in it, we believe we're going to stay in it.
I think I've been so much in the habit of being depressed. It is a habit. You have to totally retrain your brain because you've spent so many years in a pit that those are the things that you're used to. I'm still very scared of, getting into that, negative mind frame and the suicide again. And also it's this time of year. My depression's always, the deepest of it has always started in October.
Knowing and recognizing that and her other early warning signs allows Karen to anticipate and prepare for her depression, the same way somebody who lives where hurricanes happen knows the steps to take to prepare their home for that possibility.
I actually had a feeling that it was coming, so I did tell my friends, I'm like, yep, I said, I have a feeling things are going to be rough in the next few weeks. I said, if I need you, can you be there?
So when Karen did call, her friends weren't surprised.
I remember calling her up, and when she says, Karen, should I call the hospital? Should I come over? Should I do this? I said, no. I said, I think all I need to do is cry. And she was like, okay. And she let me cry for 15 minutes straight, nonstop. And it was the ugliest cry you could ever have, and it was so deep. But after 10, 15 minutes, I just said, okay, I'm done now. And then I was like, okay, wow. I was just kind of looking around the room did that just do it? And it did.
Wow.
And I was, that's huge.
The day you needed to cry, were you having suicidal thoughts or were you suicidal?
I wasn't, but it was
I just wanted to make sure.
The depression itself was that depth. It was that deep. It was that dark.
I get it.
And even now, just even talking about just the fact that I have trauma is just, I never thought I'd be somebody with that. I just thought I'd be somebody with depression.
Is this conversation triggering? Should we be stopping?
No.
Or we're going to, okay.
No.
Just want to make sure.
Nope. And I appreciate you, saying, asking that, because, my friends do the same exact thing. I'm just so glad that I'm at a point in my life where I know that I can reach out, and I know that I am not alone in anything whatsoever.
Over the years, Karen has learned before she reaches out to ask herself who the best person to reach out to is.
Now what's kind of nice is that I can see, okay, this is not a situation for my friends. This is a situation for a professional.
Speaking of professionals, there's the part of Karen's story that we want to shine an extra bright light on, and it is specifically for you listeners who have been diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression and have found how hard it is to keep hope when the things you try don't work or don't continue to work. And professionals are always dangling the carrot that new things are being developed all the time and something might work. And part of Karen's story is just that.
It was like something kicked in for me. Okay, sometimes it takes weeks to get a buildup of, to feel good. This was 5 days.
Let's talk about this. Yes.
I felt that release. It's like all of a sudden my shoulders went back, a smile went on my face, and I was like, oh, is this too good to be true? This is the best I have felt in years. all of a sudden this rejuvenation, and this feeling like, oh my gosh, I can tackle the world. It's like, this is what I've been looking for. And you don't want to depend on medicine, but, sometimes, it's okay to need something outside of what.
We do it for other things, right? I mean, if you need insulin or whatever it is that you might need because your body's working a little differently, we take what we need to regulate.
And that's what was good. And it finally just gave me some of the energy, like, okay, I can go to therapy and have productive sessions. I can take a walk on a nice day. I can, go to work and be very productive and normal is in quotation.
Yes.
Yes. Just the fact that, just to know that there are things out there that can make a difference.
I want to make sure I've got your things. So now medication, even though in the past there is a resistance in your body, therapy, supportive friends, journaling. Are there other things that I'm missing that help you keep your head above water, so to speak?
Things that help me now, I think just sometimes just giving yourself that time when you need it. That is crucial. If you are not in a good state of mind and you're forcing yourself to go out and go to work or to, go out and do, normal things, if you can't do it at that time, give yourself that grace and give yourself that time that you need, because there's plenty of days ahead that you can take that walk or go, do that thing that's so good for you. But you need to just sit back and just think, this is okay. This is temporary. This is not going to be forever. And I know that I can do this. It's so much self-talk. And it's sometimes so hard to do, and you have to dig in so deep within you to get it and to allow yourself that, because you only have one you.
And we have no trouble with other illnesses doing that. If I wake up with the flu, there is no part of me that thinks, Terry, you weakling, just push through it, get your ass out of bed and get to work. Ever. I roll over and say, I am sick. I have to call in.
Yes.
But, there's still a resistance to doing that with mental health. And there's what you said, when you're 2-3 days into it.
Yes.
There is that knowing that I could be here for a while if I don't get up now. So, there's also that.
Yeah. Another thing I have to say is kudos to anybody who has gotten themselves out of a difficult, dark place. Everybody who has gotten themselves through something like that should be proud of themselves. And I really hope that everybody listening can see that, what? You have a lot to be proud of. And, it's not an easy world right now. It's hard, but there is light, even it'll be in various shades. Sometimes it's just a little bit of light that you see through that crack. Take in that little bit of light while you can.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see a whole huge, room full of light. And, oh my goodness, be extra grateful for that. But there's always going to be some form of light that's going to come in, whether it be very little or a lot.
Wow, Mom, I really hope that some of our listeners are able to hear Karen's story and trust that she has really been there in depression. And even having lived a lifetime with it, she's reminding us that some form of light comes in. It's something that I don't believe from people who've never experienced depression, but it's hard to not believe Karen when she says what she says.
That's the power of stories of lived experience, right? Because we can read or hear like, hey, it gets better, and it all just sounds like a Hallmark card.
Yeah, it feels like you just don't get it. But there's so many things that Karen says where I know that she does. She talks about the physical sense of depression, right? We think of it as a mental health situation, that it is located just in the brain, but that physical lethargy that can come with it, that flatness, the amount of effort it takes I know I've certainly felt that.
Absolutely. We talked for a long time about showers, and it's just such a specific thing that people who have depression know about. It's like, you have trouble showering? How long have you gone?
Yeah. And even when, as her depression has started to lift because she had the courage to continue trying different treatments, and I'm so grateful that she found one. She also talks about how she kept trying different therapists until she found the right one, and what a
Yes.
difference the right therapist makes. Finally finding a medication that seemed to make a difference for her. It takes a tremendous amount of effort, that, on some days, if it's too hard to imagine getting in the shower, it's definitely too much to imagine, trying a first date of sorts with a therapist to see if they're the right fit.
And even though many therapists will allow for a free sort of get to know me session intake on the phone or virtually, even that takes energy, that it can be easy to believe or convince ourselves, or it's a reality that we don't have the energy to do that. So again, as you say, it is
evidence of
it's evidence
strength.
of real perseverance and strength on her part to just keep going and to believe that she was worth the effort, because that is also something that gets diminished, if not destroyed, by depression.
It is. And then the habits of also living like someone who is worth living in a different way, those actually require different habits, right? So if your depression has really stolen your ability to, handle hygiene, get in the shower, it actually takes a little reteaching, almost like physical therapy or occupational therapy-esque, to start to develop the habits of what it is to be in a less depressed state, right? Karen said she had to retrain her brain because she spent so many years in the pit, that those are the things that you're used to. And if certain food, certain habits, certain wake up times, certain bedtimes, certain everything, movement, friends, it can take a real rebuilding to figure out who we are when we're not in that depressed episode.
And it's easy for us to use the word habit for all those more positive things. Make a habit out of moving, make a habit out of your bedtime being consistent. Karen used the word habit to describe her depression. She said she got so used to it, it felt habitual.
Definitely familiar. And I also just referenced depression as episodic. My depression is episodic. There are folks for whom it is a constant, chronic presence. And Mom, two things just because it's this time of year. One is that Karen mentions that particular times of year are hard for her depression. She said depression always has started back for her or going deeper in October. And with daylight, with the change in weather in certain climates, with the shortening of days and the upcoming of holidays and all those types of things, it's very common that this is a time of year where if you experience depression or symptoms associated with it, that it's a really prevalent time of year for that to come up. And the other thing is that there are so many social obligations that can come up in this time of year to have fun and all the sort of festivals and parties and holidays that can come this time of year. And you can really feel the gap between the fun that other people are having, the amount that other people want to socialize, how happy the people look in the commercials on TV, and how you are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a seasonal trigger in some ways. And it's both sort of social and societal, in addition to being about sort of the natural cycles of the sun and the time of day and the colder weather potentially and all those things, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. So I just want to, again, thank Karen for being willing to share her story with our listeners, with our other listeners. Mm-hmm. And a reminder to our listeners that it is one of the things that is different about this podcast is that we are really talking to people with lived experiences and hearing what works for them. And it's so powerful. And I'm so grateful that Karen was able to both receive from our community and also find a way of giving by sharing her own story.
Lovely. and very grateful. And it wasn't easy. She was tired by the end of it. I mean, I had to ask a couple times, including in the episode, are you good? Should we keep going? And afterwards, she said, I'm going to have to call somebody. I'm going to have to talk to a friend. And fortunately for her, she has a wonderful support system. So I'm glad she has it, and aware that she was needing to access it after we talked.
Yeah. Like, this is all hard, and we can't do it alone, and we need people, we need practices. And Karen is such a, she makes it so clear how intentional and deliberate she's been about developing those structures for herself. And the strategies that she's developed to manage her depression also support her in other moments where it just feels emotionally heavy, or she feels full or low energy.
And we are aware that not everyone has that. And it's another one of the reasons we started this podcast. And we're hoping that you find some comfort and support in hearing people talk about experiences that are not the same, but similar possibly to the ones you're having.
You are not alone.
Yeah, we all feel that way, but there are so many of us feeling that way that it's proof that you're not. So thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, Carly. And thank you for listening.
We really hope that this discussion helps give some language or context to your own depression, or ideas for how to support someone else in your life living with it. We invite you to check out the hundreds of episodes in our archive, and to explore both the Resource Hub and treatment options on recovery.com. Depression is too dark a road to walk alone.
We'll be back next week.